Okay, tama na. Magre-record na ako.
Sige.
Good day, everyone, and I'm welcoming you once again to our discussion for this day. Okay, and we're back to our creative nonfiction class. Okay. Of course, we are now in the poetry section of our subject creative nonfiction, and I want to say hello. I'm back. So we are now in poetry writing. So for our last discussion, you have learned about the elements of fiction, right? And in there, so there are many things that you have learned, like the characters, the plot, what else? The conflict, the theme, the setting. And this particular discussion will be dealing with poetry. That's why on the first title we have here on poetry writing. So poems. Poems consists of lines and stanzas. So during your high school years, or shall I say junior high school years, so you have already an idea on the structure of poems. So it consists of lines and stanzas. So stanza means group of lines in a poem. So from most readings or most poems that we have seen, maybe, so there are at least 4 lines in each stanza, right? In each stanza, rather. And verses would mean lines in a poem. Okay, like what I'm saying a while back, so there are 4 lines in a stanza. So lines there are also called verses, okay? So I hope that we get the idea there. And it comes from Latin word versus. Okay. So same thing as furrows. So like as furrows would mean if we are in the agricultural sector, like for example, they are preparing the land for like in a corn or in a cornfield. So before planting, you need to secure first furrows. Okay, it is where you drop the seed and then you're going to plant it. Okay, so that's the structure of most poems that we have traditionally. Okay, there is also this what we call term called versification. So versification would mean it is the process of breaking down a group of texts into lines. We have also here Czeslaw Milosz. So who is Czeslaw Milosz? It says here that if poems can look like prose, does a poem have that one unique characteristic that separates it from prose? So a possible answer comes from Polish poet and fictionist Czeslaw Milosz. So who pointed out that prose is made to be written, a poem is made to be read. I'll repeat on that part. Prose is made to be written, while a poem is made to be read. Okay, so that justifies his point of view. In other words, Milosz was saying that a poem must have pattern of musicality or rhythm, regardless if it has a rhyme and meter or is written in free verse. Considering that poetry stems from oral tradition, it can be deduced that poems recited long ago were not actually recited. Instead, they were sung. So poems before, they are really sang. Like in the Bible, like for example, in the Bible, The poems there in the Bible, which we could see or read in particular in Psalms or Proverbs, they are actually being sung before. Okay, if we if if we are thinking about a real evidence that poems were really sang long time ago. So we need also to unravel the term rhythm. Okay, so according to Oxford Dictionary, rhythm is a strong, regular, repeated pattern of movement or sound. Or other other says the blending of lines has to have musicality. Okay. So there are two rhythmic patterns in poetry. The first one is what we call lyrical poem, which is which follows a metrical pattern derived from the lyre. So a lyre is a musical instrument used for reciting or singing poems in ancient times. Okay, example of this is the John Donne's song "Go and Catch a Falling Star." Okay, may have the opportunity to read it for you. Go and catch a falling star. Get with child mandrake root, or who cleft the devil's foot. Teach me to hear mermaids singing, or to keep off envy's stinging, and find what wind serves to advance in honest mind. If thou best born to strange sights, things invisible to see, ride 10,000 days and nights, till age no white hairs on thee. Thou, when thou returnest, wilt tell me all strange wonders that befell thee, and swear nowhere lives a woman true and fair. Okay, I'm so sorry for that. It should be a woman true and fair. For the last stanza, if thou find'st one, let me know. Such a pilgrimage were sweet, yet do not, I would not go. Though at next door we might meet, though she were true when you met her. And last, till you write your letter, yet she will be false ere I come to two or three. So as for the breathing pattern, national artist for literature by the name Cirilo Bautista noted that the originators of free verse believed that the language of poem should be as close as possible to common speech in rhythm, there you go, rhythm, diction, and tempo. He said that even in free verse, no matter how long or short a line, should depend on the natural system of breathing. So that's one thing you'll consider when you're writing a poem, the breathing. Okay, a piece of copy. I'll read it for you. So this is by Gertrude Steins, poetry collection, Tender Buttons. A piece of copy, which is found in your book, if you want to see it, page 15. More of double. A place in no new table. A single image is not splendor. Dirt is yellow, a sign of more and not mentioned. A piece of coffee is not a detainer. The resemblance to yellow is dirtier and distincter. The clean mixture is whiter and not coal color, never more coal color than altogether. The side of a person, the side of a reason, the same side slighter, the side of a simpler negative answer, the same source sunder, the intention to wishing, the same splendor, the same furniture. The time to show us message is when too late and later there is no hanging in a blind. a not torn rosewood color. If it is not dangerous, then a pleasure, and more than any other, if it's cheap, is not cheaper. The amusing side is that the sooner there are no fewer, the more certain is the necessity dwindle. Supposing the case contained rosewood and a color, supposing that there was no reason for distress and more likely for a number, supposing that there was no astonishment, it is not necessary to mingle astonishment. The settling of stationing cleaning is one way not to shatter, scatter, and scattering. The one way to use custom is to use soap and silk for cleaning. The one way to see cotton is to have a design concentrating the illusion and the illustration. The perfect way is to accustom the thing to have a lining and the shape of a ribbon and to be solid, quite solid in standing and to use heaviness in mourning. It is light enough in that it has that shape nicely, very nicely may not be exaggerating, very strongly may be sincerely fainting, may be strangely flattering, may not be strange in everything, may not be strange too. Okay, what can you say about that? Excuse me. So it's all about the breathing pattern. That whenever you construct your poem, it should be breathable. When you say breathable, you should not go or experience out of breath. Okay, you should also consider that, including the place of punctuations. Like for example, for commas, you should be doing slight pause, and for period, you should be really stop a bit. Okay, that's a piece of coffee. So we have seen in the narration how the author really described coffee and the experience of coffee, drinking coffee as well. Okay, so in poetry, we have really to deal with the breathing pattern because it follows the beating of the heart. Wow, what a nice word. So it sets the tone of the poem, which according to Poetry Foundation is the poet's attitude toward the poem's speaker, reader, and subject matter as interpreted by the reader, often described as a mood that pervades the experience of reading the poem. It is created by the poem's vocabulary, metrical regularity or irregularity, syntax, use of figurative language, and rhyme. Okay, so those are the things that can affect our mood or attitude toward reading a certain poem. Like for example, if we are experiencing being angry or agitated, so of course your heartbeat is fast. So normally in biology, when you're angry, it is really your your blood, yeah, as if you are experiencing hypertension. But when you're experiencing melancholic or relaxed, of course, you are expected, it is expected that your heartbeat is slow. For example, when the tone, theme, or message of your poem is defiant, your mood, the way your poem is read or performed should stay in the intense emotion as well. Let's now proceed to the persona. This is also an element that we should consider in poem writing or in making a poem. So persona, it is the speaker in poetry. Okay, the speaker in nonfiction or any kind of fiction, we call them as the narrator. But in poem or in poetry, we call it as the speaker. So it does not have to be the main character or one of the characters in your poem. The poem can mention who or what the persona is. But there are also instances that we cannot really figure out who the persona is, right? Okay, let's take a look, for example, this one, The Fly by William Blake. Little fly, thy summer's play, my thoughtless hand has brushed away. Am not I a fly like thee? Or art not thou a man like me? For I dance and drink and sing, till some blind hand shall brush my wing. If thought is life, and strength and breath, and that want of thought is death, then am I a happy fly? Then am I a happy fly, if I live or if I die? Very wonderful, right? So very wonderful description and observation about flies. So the persona is clear. The man, not necessarily the author or William Blake, is talking to a fly. Okay. What do we normally react when there are flies roaming around our food? Of course, we will shoo them away, right? Okay, because they cause maybe you are irritable because of that insect or flying thing. So what you're going to do is to shoo it, or to shoo them away from your food. So forms of poetry. So the first one here, by the way, poetic form, according to the Poetry Archive, can be understood as the physical structure of the poem. Physical structure would mean, number one, we'll consider the length of the lines, their rhythms, and their system of rhymes and repetition. These are the physical structure of the poem. The one that we could see the length of the lines, their rhythms, their system of rhymes and repetitions. So there are various forms of poetry that you can appreciate, and one of them is the epic poem. So what are epic poems? So epic poems, I'm so sorry with my grammar. Epic poems should be R, or we'll just consider epic poem is a long poem that narrates the journey of a hero or a nation. Okay, actually, we have also examples here like the Iliad and Odyssey by Homer, Metamorphosis by Ovid, Shaname by Ferdowsi, Divine Comedy, Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, which I am very sure that you have tackled that in your during your junior high school year, especially grade 10. Okay, because it's all about world literature. But of course, we have tons of FPIC as well in our country, Philippines. And it is expected that you have already read snippets or talents of few such as Ibalon or Darangan. According to Damiana Eugenio, a folklorist, he had anthologized in his thick volume Philippine Folk Literature, the Epics. He presented there 23 folk epics from 14 ethno-linguistic groups in the country. So that's how rigid his book about the Philippine folklore literature, The Epics, which contains 23 folk epics. But Dr. Nicole Revel, a French scholar also, in his decades-old study, he was able to reveal 63 known epics, and these epics, and that is only in Palawan. Okay, so only in Palawan there are 63 known epics. So 63 plus 23 is equal to 86. So imagine that there are really many epics here in the Philippines. Your quest as a literary enthusiast and creative writer is to know as much as you can about them. So if you have really the ample time or the free time later on, so you can visit these epics only here in the Philippines. Okay? Okay, let's try this. Another popular poetic form is the sonnet. So let's read Sonnet 17 by William Shakespeare. I'll read it for you. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dim, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Okay, that is a sonnet 17 by William Shakespeare. So we'll not really deal upon the content or the context of this sonnet, but rather we should study the important features of a sonnet. Okay, a sonnet is what? It has 14 lines with 10 syllables each line and a rhyme scheme. Okay, so there are 14 lines there with 10 syllable each line or each verse, like what we have studied a while back. So rhyme scheme is what? The structure of rhyming pattern. Okay, so in that sonnet, okay, I'm so sorry, it's sonnet 18. Sonnet 18, that's sonnet 18. So I locked one numerical number, which is letter I. So in that sonnet 18, so the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, and G, G. Okay. So in that particular poem, we have day and May, which are found in the first and third lines or verse of the poem. So you can revisit it or use your book for your reference. We have also temperate and date. Okay, so that's the B part. Okay, day and May, first and third, they are represented with letter A. And temperate and date, which is found in the second and fourth line of the stanza or the sonnet, so they are represented by the letter B. We have also shines, declines. So shines and declines, they are the letter C. Then, yeah. So there are also other sonnet schemes like Petrarchan. Okay, so the rhyme scheme for Petrarchan, A B B A, A B B A, C D E, C D E, or A B B A, A B B A, C D C, D C D. So that's the Petrarchan way of presenting the sonnet. We have also Spenserian. We have A B A B, B C B C, C D C D, E E. Okay, so that's the pattern. So please remember that. We have also Tanaga. So before that, other poetic forms with a specific rhyme scheme include the ballad, limerick, sestina, pontium, haiku, and villanelle. Okay, and other forms is this one, Tanaga. Oops, okay. So knowing that our country has diverse oral poetry traditions can give you a sense of place in world literature. So we have also our own version. Okay, that's why we really need a spot in the world literature because we have provided something that is our own, okay, and that is Tanaga. So those poetry forms also follow rules of rhyming. Okay, let's take this as an example. Katitibay katulos, sakaling dat ng agos, ako'y Mamunting lomot sa iyo, ipopolopot. Okay, let's try to translate it in English. You better have strength, picket, when water starts to thicket. I, a moss that seemed wicked, will strangle like a tippet. Okay, so that is written by Mark Angeles. So both the original Tagalog and translation of this author show the characteristic of a tanaga. You can see that both have 4 lines with 7 syllables each and has an A rhyme scheme. Okay, let's now proceed to this one. So Prometheus Unbound. So this is an acrostic poem by Jose F. Lacaba. So used the pseudonym Ruben Cuevas when he published this poem in Focus Philippines. Focus Philippines is a magazine controlled by the Marcos government under martial law. Okay, I'll read for you Prometheus Unbound. I shall never exchange my fetters for slavish servility. 'Tis better to be chained to the rock than to be bound to the service of Zeus. That is according to Aeschylus, Prometheus Bound. Mars shall glow tonight. Artemis is out of sight. Rust in the twilight sky, colors a bloodshot eye. Or shall I say that dust sunders the sleep of the just? Hold fast to the gift of fire. I am rage, I am wrath, I am ire. The vulture sits on my rock, licks at the chains that mocked. Emancipation's breath reeks of death, death, death. Death shall not unclench me. I am earth, wind, and sea. Kisses bestow on the brave that defy the damp of the grave, and strike the chill hand of death with the flaming sword of love. Orion steers, the vulture retreats from the heart. Pure trust of the spark that burns and bounds, departs, returns to pluck out of death's spurs, a god who dared to resist. Okay, so if we could see, okay, there are really names in the first word of each lines or verses. So the first one, two, three, the first 6 lines or the first verse talks about Marcos. So you can see there the acronym Marcos. Then preceded by the word Hitler, okay, and preceded by the word dictador. And the other one, the last 4 lines is tuta. Okay, maybe you know already the background of it. So during the time of the Marcos regime, so they have experienced what we call martial law. So in this particular poem, so it was put in a very creative way through expounding the Prometheus bound by Aeschylus. Okay, so if you want to really get the gist of this or the summary, okay, so you can research it internet via internet. Okay, we have also Caesura. So Caesura, it is how you cut each line equally. Okay, like for example, so it is by Benigno Ramos Panulat. Kung ikaw panulat ay di magagamit, kundi sa paghamak sa bayang may hapis. Manong mabaklikat ang taglay mong tulis, ay bulagin ako't sugatan ang dibdib. Okay, this is how we apply Caesura. Okay, kung ikaw panulat ay di magagamit. Ayan. So nakikita na po natin yung slant line. So we are already seeing the slant line which divided each line into 2. Okay, each line is cut equally by 2 groups or 6 syllables. You may replicate the same process by making 3 groups of 4 syllables if you have 12 syllables per line, like the poem above. Okay, that's how Caesura works. We have also free verse. So free verse or verse libre, according to Bautista, there is really nothing free about free verse. Why? Okay, because it says here, though it rejects specific stanzaic measures, rhymes, and poetic techniques associated with traditional verse, it must observe a body of rules that dictates its shape and sound. So you really need to have the shape and the sound. It says here to write free verse is not simply a matter of chopping sentences into random linear fragments. The matter of how long or short a line should, the line should depend on the natural system of breathing. Okay. Should depend on the natural system of breathing. Okay, in Paris, so actually they have applied the free verse. We have there the poetic form Alexandrine. Okay, so Alexandrine would mean a rhyme and meter poem with 12 syllables each line. And the Romanticists, they grew tired actually of the traditional form. So they wanted to free it. That's why they made the Caesura inconsistent and employed enjambment. Okay, another term, enjambment. Okay, so Ezra Pound as well said that poetry can be divided into three essential elements. We have the phanopoeia, which means image, melapoeia, which means music, and logopoeia, which means meaning. Okay, phanopoeia, image, like the word photo. Okay, phano, photo. Melapoeia, so from mela, from the letter M, mela, or melotone, or music. Logo means meaning. Okay, we know that. Okay, what is enjambment? Actually, we have tackled about that, right? So in the romanticist part. So enjambment means you cut the line for effect. Okay, let's proceed with this example. High in September's frontier winds, white brocade feathers, the Mongol falcon flies, alone, a flake of snow, 100 miles, some fleeting speck of autumn in its eye. So this is translated by David Hinton, and this line from Lipo's poem shows how to use enjambment to heighten the imagery. Notice the effect of being white and alone were intensified. I'll repeat. High in September's frontier winds, white, brocade feathers, the Mongol falcon flies. Alone, a flake of snow, 100 miles, some fleeting speck of autumn's in its eye. So the white one and the alone one. Okay, so they give emphasis. Okay, and that's what we call enjambment. You cut the line for effect. Okay, how about prose poetry? So this is a poem in prose form. Poets.org states that it maintains a poetic quality, often utilizing techniques common to poetry such as fragmentation, compression, repetition, and rhyme. Techniques. Okay, as a technique, you can also use idioms and figures of speech. Innovations also escalate its effectiveness. Like, for example, a script can be accepted as a prose poem. That's why, okay. So in a concrete poem, a text about a tree can look like a tree. Okay, that's concrete because when you say concrete, the thing that you could see, the thing that you could touch. So by the word or the text, you can already visualize that is that particular object being displayed or being described. Okay, we have also erasure poem. So how do we do this? So you can erase texts. Okay. Actually, there are samples in Google. So you can also collect pictures and text and form a collage. And for visual poem, you can make a digital image, okay, and call it visual poem. Okay, we have also verbal josts. Verbal joust would mean it's the throwing, or it's like, for example, it for Philippine setting, it's more on the, what do you call, the rap thing, okay, yung sagutan, okay, wherein you could throw, you can you can use name the particular name of that competitor or something like that's verbal just, okay, like you are insulting using her name or name tagging, something like that. It's like a bullying one, okay. So spoken word also, which is very familiar to us. So there are many ways and avenues to innovate the form and content of a poem. Okay. So spoken word is for performance poetry, which is very relevant as of today. We have also the what we call hypertextual poems. So poets use HTML poems or codes. So whether your poem is narrative or lyrical, visual or oral, it has to be understood by your reader. So the main thing to consider when we write a particular poem, a self-composed poem, we should make it sure that it has to be understood by our reader. So I think I have said a lot and made this simple explanation or expounding of the world of poetry or poems. May we appreciate it and keep in touch with more lessons to come in creative nonfiction. So I hope that we are blessed with the information we have gotten from this presentation and hope to see you again next time. So goodbye and have a good day. God bless everyone.